What do an action movie star, one of India's most respected actors, and the director of a holiday classic have in common? They're just a few of the big names who just don't like Ryan Reynolds. In 2009, Ryan Reynolds told MTV News that he envisioned someone like director Quentin Tarantino taking the reins of the Deadpool movie, which would ultimately linger in development hell for the next few years. Reynolds, though, knew it was a pipe dream. He told the outlet, "Obviously, Tarantino is a guy that likes to direct his own material, so there's a good chance he wouldn't be the guy." Reynolds also referred to Tarantino as a dream director for the film. The dream part of the statement proves to be entirely accurate here, as it's highly unlikely that Tarantino would be making the kind of movies that Reynolds stars in. In a 2023 interview with Deadline, Tarantino bemoaned the state of the film industry, especially when it came to the type of movies that streaming services are investing in and releasing to the world. He told Deadline, "I mean, and I'm not picking on anybody, but apparently for Netflix, Reynolds has made $50 million on this movie and $50 million on that movie and $50 million on the next movie for them. I don't know what any of those movies are. I've never seen them." Tarantino added that he's happy for Reynolds getting the big paydays, but there's no real substance to what he's doing. He said to the outlet, "Well, good for him that he's making so much money, but those movies don't exist in the zeitgeist. It's almost like they don't even exist." In 2016, director Tim Miller and Reynolds made magic together on Deadpool.
3 minutes.
Deal. What do we do with the remaining 2 minutes 37 seconds?
Cuddle?
The superhero film exceeded all expectations, dancing its way to over $780 million at the box office and becoming the highest-grossing R-rated movie at the time. A sequel was inevitable, and the dream team of Miller and Reynolds were locked in for the next round. However, in October 2016, Miller left Deadpool 2. Appearing on the radio station KCRW, Miller revealed the reason for his departure, saying, "Ryan wanted to be in control of the franchise." The director explained how a lot of filmmakers are able to work in environments like that, but he wasn't interested in effectively fighting a losing battle. He went on to add, "Ryan's the face of the franchise, and he was the most important component of that by far. So if he decides he wants to control it, then he's going to control it." Rumors surfaced that Miller wanted to make Deadpool 2 more expensive than the first film, but this is something that he denied while appearing on CG Garage. However, he explained on the playlist's The Fourth Wall podcast how his version of the movie would have been different. He pointed to a scene that would have had the Fantastic Four's Thing slugging it out with the Juggernauts as an example. In an interview with GQ, Reynolds praised Miller's Deadpool contributions, but said, "There were vaguely scary fights in the post-production process that escalated quickly." In 2018, Deadline broke the news that the holiday spirit of Home Alone would return to the big screen. However, it wouldn't be about a boy who gets left behind by his family over Christmas. In Stoned Alone, the plot would center on an adult stoner who is left to his own devices over the holiday season and celebrates by getting high. Expectedly, burglars break into his home and he needs to fight back. Reynolds was attached to the project as a producer, and 20th Century Fox would release the film. Chris Columbus, who directed the first 2 Home Alone movies, wasn't a fan of this idea at all and considered it disrespectful. In an interview with The Independent, Columbus said, "When I read about something called Stoned Alone they were going to do with Ryan, it was an R-rated Home Alone movie about stoners. I thought to myself, this is just an insult to the art of cinema." The filmmaker questioned the purpose of the film and why his holiday standard was being remade, adding, "Watch the original, forget about it, it's just never going to be as good." Stoned Alone never materialized, presumably becoming a casualty of Disney's acquisition of Fox. However, a Home Alone reboot occurred in the form of 2021's Home Sweet Home Alone, which doesn't feature a stoner as the protagonist. In 2009, Gerard Butler appeared in Mark Neveldine and Brian Taylor's Gamer, a film where people can control other human beings in a video game setting. While not a box office hit or a critically acclaimed feature by any means, it became a well-known movie in Butler's illustrious filmography. So much so that the people couldn't help but point out the similarities between Gamer and 2021's Free Guy. Free Guy starred Reynolds as the non-playable character Guy, who becomes something more in the massive multiplayer online game he's a part of. In an interview, the comparisons between Free Guy and Gamer were brought up with Butler, who was promoting his 2021 movie Cop Shop. Butler said he didn't know about Free Guy. He was then informed by his Cop Shop co-star Alexis Louder that it was a movie starring Reynolds. In response, Butler said, "I don't watch Ryan Reynolds movies." Expectedly, Butler's comments caught the attention of the fans and press, doing the rounds across the internet. Many wondered if Reynolds would respond to the presumed dig, and he did so in a typically cheeky and humorous fashion. Taking to his Instagram account, he posted a screenshot of people's coverage of Butler's comments and wrote, "Can you believe Gerard Butler doesn't know what Free Guy is?" He then used the opportunity to point his followers to the American Civil Liberties Union and Legal Defense Fund, encouraging people to donate. Reynolds also stated that he and his wife, Blake Lively, would match their donations. By starring in the blockbuster movies Deadpool and Deadpool 2, Reynolds proved he was a global and bankable superstar. Undoubtedly, studios realized that putting his name on a film poster attracts the public's attention, so there are high expectations for his movies to perform at the global box office. In the lead-up to the release of 2021's Free Guy, extra efforts were put into the marketing, especially since the world was slowly emerging from the COVID-19 pandemic and studios wanted to lure audiences back into theaters. As a result, Reynolds filmed a promo enticing the Indian public with a number of reasons to watch Free Guy, including the fact that there would be dancing. He said,
If you're wondering if Hollywood is just mimicking Bollywood now, well, the answer is yes. We have no shame.
One person who didn't appreciate the joke was Indian actor and politician Kangana Ranaut. On her Instagram story, she shared a news headline of Reynolds' quote about Hollywood imitating Bollywood and added, "and trying to steal our screens." Ranaut had been extremely vocal about the influence of Hollywood and Indian cinema a few weeks earlier, saying in a press conference, "We need to discourage American and English movies as they are taking over our screens. We need to behave like one nation." Ultimately, Free Guy made around $317,000 at the Indian box office during its theatrical run, according to Box Office Mojo. Sammi Giancola, better known as Sammi Sweetheart, grabbed the public's attention thanks to her stint on the reality show Jersey Shore.
To me, you come off like a little bit annoying.
A celebrity in her own right, Giancola has encountered a number of other famous people since making herself a household name in 2009. She chatted about the people she had met and her experiences on her podcast Just Saying. However, she doesn't have fond memories of Reynolds. In a 2015 episode, Giancola discussed how she and Jersey Shore castmate Dina Cortese showed up to do an interview for Live with Kelly and Michael, where Reynolds went on stage before them. Since both Giancola and Cortese were fans, their publicist approached Reynolds' publicist to see if they could organize a picture after he wrapped up. Reportedly, Reynolds' publicist said the actor had a flight to catch, but he would ask him. Giancola explained how they waited on the side and smiled at Reynolds as he walked off stage, but he lowered his head and raised his hand to block his view of them. Despite their publicist asking if he would take a photo, he continued walking past them and didn't respond or acknowledge them. In 2023, Giancola and Cortese appeared on Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen and talked about the incident again.
He didn't want to be by us.
They explained how it struck a nerve since they are big fans of both Reynolds and his wife, Blake Lively. Reynolds and Rob McElhenney's acquisition of Welsh soccer club Wrexham AFC has been highly publicized, even receiving its own television series, Welcome to Wrexham. The celebrity influence of both Reynolds and McElhenney has brought newfound attention to Wrexham, resulting in a massive boost to the club's popularity around the globe. British businessman and radio host Simon Jordan, though, suggested the rise is only due to Reynolds' celebrity and questioned how sustainable it is in the long run. Jordan said on Talk Sport, "The other fella, McElhenney, well, he carries his bag, but Ryan Reynolds is the audience grabber. Profile carries you so far. In the end, you've got to know what you're doing, and you've got to be prepared to put your hands in your pockets."
It's kind of true, isn't it?
In another episode, Jordan suggested that Wrexham is nothing more than a media project for Reynolds and that neither he nor McElhenney are perfect owners. Jordan scrutinized Reynolds' comments that he and McElhenney would have been in financial trouble had Wrexham not been promoted to another division. He then went on to add that Reynolds has enough money to not worry about such matters. For Jordan, the only concern he could see for Reynolds is that Wrexham wouldn't have looked as appealing as a subject for a television show. Of course, he was alluding to Reynolds' Wrexham project being more for media attention than a love for the club or sport.